The whispers started before Nia Carter even entered the church. I heard she's hideous. That's why the veil is so thick. No man would marry her willingly. It's just for the business deal. Poor Mr. Hayes. Imagine having to wake up next to that every morning. Nia stood in the small room behind the altar, her hands trembling as she clutched a bouquet of white roses someone had shoved at her an hour ago. The veil covering her face was heavy, layers of thick lace that made it hard to breathe. Her Uncle Gerald had chosen it specifically. Keep your face covered, he'd said that morning, his voice cold as always. No one needs to see you until it's too late for Hayes to back out. She was 23 years old and this was her wedding day. She should have felt joy, excitement, hope. Instead, she felt like a piece of furniture being sold to the highest bidder. Through the thin walls, she could hear more voices. Julian Hayes is a good man. He's doing this to save his company and all those jobs. Real sacrifice. Still, marrying a woman you've never even seen. That takes courage or desperation. Nia closed her eyes. She'd never met Julian Hayes. She'd only seen his picture in business magazines her uncle kept in his office. Tall, handsome, successful. Everything she wasn't, according to Gerald. For 18 years, since her parents died in a car accident, her uncle had reminded her daily that she was a burden. Too plain, too quiet, too much trouble. When Hayes Industries needed a merger with Morrison Technologies to survive, Gerald had seen his chance to finally get rid of her. It's a good deal for everyone, Gerald had told her 2 weeks ago. Hayes gets the merger and saves his failing company. I get a profitable partnership. And you? You get a roof over your head and a husband. More than you deserve, really? Nia hadn't argued. She'd learned years ago that arguing with Gerald Morrison only made things worse. Besides, what choice did she have? She had no money, no job experience, nowhere to go. At least this way she might have a chance at something different. Even if that something meant marrying a stranger who probably hated her already. The church music started. Wagner's Bridal Chorus. The sound made Nia's stomach twist. A wedding coordinator pushed open the door. It's time. Nia forced her feet to move. The coordinator led her to the church entrance where her uncle waited, looking uncomfortable in his gray suit. He didn't meet her eyes as he took her arm. Remember, he whispered as the doors opened, don't mess this up. Hayes is expecting a proper wife. Quiet, obedient, invisible. That should be easy for you. The church was barely half full. Most of the guests were on the groom's side, business associates and employees who had come to witness their boss's sacrifice. On Nia's side sat 3 people, Gerald's secretary, his lawyer, and a distant cousin who'd come hoping for free food. Every eye turned to stare at her as she walked down the aisle. Even through the thick veil, she could feel their judgment, their curiosity, their pity. Some people didn't even bother hiding their phones as they took pictures of the ugly bride. Then she saw him. Julian Hayes stood at the altar in a perfectly tailored navy blue suit. He was taller than she'd imagined, with dark brown skin and broad shoulders that spoke of strength. His expression was unreadable, his jaw tight. He watched her approach with the same look someone might give a business contract they were about to sign but weren't happy about. When Nia reached the altar, Gerald practically shoved her forward before taking his seat. She stumbled slightly and Julian's hand shot out to steady her. His touch was gentle, which surprised her. The minister began speaking, but Nia barely heard the words. Her heart was pounding so loud it drowned everything else out. This was really happening. In a few minutes, she would be married to this man. This stranger who had agreed to take on a wife he'd never seen because his company was dying and her uncle had offered a lifeline. Do you, Julian Michael Hayes, take this woman to be your lawfully wedded wife? I do. His voice was deep and steady. No hesitation but no warmth either. And do you, Nia Elizabeth Carter, take this man to be your lawfully wedded husband? Nia's voice came out as barely a whisper. I do. Then by the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride. This was the moment Nia had been dreading. Julian would lift her veil, see her face, and realize what a terrible mistake he'd made. She braced herself for the disgust, the anger, the regret. Julian stepped closer. His hands moved to the edges of her veil, and Nia held her breath. She'd been told her whole life that she was nothing special to look at. Plain, Gerald always said. Forgettable. The kind of face that disappeared in a crowd. Julian lifted the veil. And froze. His hands stilled, the veil falling back over her shoulders. His dark eyes widened slightly as they met hers. For a long moment, he simply stared at her, his expression shifting through surprise, confusion, and something else Nia couldn't identify. She had warm brown skin, large dark eyes, and full lips. Her hair was pulled back in a simple style, revealing high cheekbones and a graceful neck. She wasn't a supermodel, but she was far from ugly. In fact, as Julian continued to stare, it became clear that whatever he'd been expecting, it wasn't this. "You're beautiful," he whispered, so quietly that only she could hear. Nia's eyes filled with tears. In 23 years, no one had ever called her beautiful. She didn't know how to respond. Julian seemed to catch himself. He blinked, then leaned in and pressed a gentle, brief kiss to her lips. It was formal, appropriate for the setting, but there was a softness to it that surprised her. The church erupted in polite applause. Julian took Nia's hand and led her back down the aisle. His palm was warm against hers, his grip steady. She glanced up at him, trying to understand what had just happened, but his expression had returned to that unreadable mask. They signed the marriage certificate in silence. Gerald approached with his lawyer, both men grinning like they'd just closed a profitable business deal. Which Nia supposed they had. "Congratulations, Hayes," Gerald said, shaking Julian's hand. "I trust you'll find my niece adequate for your needs. She's been raised to be compliant and undemanding. Won't give you any trouble." Julian's jaw tightened. "Your niece is now my wife. I'll thank you to speak about her with respect." Gerald blinked, taken aback. Of course. Just making sure you understand the arrangement." "The arrangement," Julian said coldly, "is that Nia is my wife. Nothing more needs to be understood." He turned to Nia and offered his arm. "Shall we go?" Nia nodded, not trusting her voice. As they walked toward the church exit, she could still hear the whispers following them. "Did you see his face when he lifted that veil? He looked shocked. Poor man. At least the business deal is solid." Outside, a black car waited. Julian opened the door for Nia, and she slid inside, grateful to escape the staring eyes. He joined her in the back seat and the driver pulled away from the church. They sat in silence for several minutes. Nia stared out the window, watching the city pass by. She was married now. Mrs. Nia Hayes. It didn't feel real. "I need to apologize," Julian said suddenly. Nia turned to look at him. "For what?" "For everything. For this whole situation." He ran a hand over his face, looking tired. "You deserve better than this. A real wedding with people who care about you. A husband who married you for love, not a business merger. I'm sorry this is what your life has become." His words were kind, but they made Nia's chest ache. "You don't need to apologize. You're saving your company. 800 people get to keep their jobs because of this marriage. That matters more than a fancy wedding." Julian studied her for a moment. "Your uncle said you'd be compliant and undemanding. I'm starting to think he doesn't know you at all." "He doesn't," Nia admitted. "But then nobody really does." The car turned onto a long driveway lined with trees. At the end stood a massive house, modern and beautiful with huge windows and clean lines. Nia had known Julian was wealthy, but seeing this mansion made her realize just how different their worlds were. "This is home," Julian said as the car stopped. "You're home now too." A woman in her 50s stood at the front door, wiping her hands on an apron. She had kind eyes and graying hair pulled back in a bun. When Julian and Nia got out of the car, she hurried down the steps. Welcome," she said warmly. "I'm Mrs. Rodriguez. I manage the house. And you must be Mrs. Hayes." The name sounded strange to Nia's ears. Mrs. Hayes. That was her now. "It's nice to meet you," Nia said softly. Mrs. Rodriguez beamed. "Oh, you have lovely manners. Mr. Hayes, your bride is beautiful." Those rumors were complete nonsense. Julian's expression darkened. "What rumors?" Mrs. Rodriguez looked flustered. "Oh, just silly gossip. Some of the business associates were saying." "Well, never mind what they were saying. They were wrong, that's what matters." Julian turned to Nia. "What exactly did your uncle tell people about you?" Nia looked away. "He told everyone I was unattractive. That no man would want to marry me willingly. He said it was better if you didn't see me before the wedding because you might back out of the deal." Julian's hands clenched into fists at his sides. "That man is—" He stopped himself, clearly trying to control his anger. "You didn't deserve that treatment." "It's fine," Nia said, though it wasn't. It had never been fine. "I'm used to it." "Well, you shouldn't have to be used to it," Julian said firmly. "You're my wife now. Things are going to be different." Mrs. Rodriguez, sensing the tension, clapped her hands together. "Why don't I show Mrs. Hayes to her room? I'm sure she'd like to rest after the ceremony." "Her room?" Nia asked. Julian looked slightly uncomfortable. "I thought you'd want your own space. We barely know each other." I didn't think you'd be comfortable sharing a bedroom right away. But if you prefer. No, Nia said quickly. A separate room is, that's very thoughtful. Thank you. She followed Mrs. Rodriguez inside, through rooms that looked like they belonged in a magazine. Everything was clean and modern and expensive. They climbed a curved staircase to the second floor, walked down a long hallway and stopped at a door near the end. This is your room, Mrs. Rodriguez said, opening the door. Mr. Hayes's room is just across the hall. The bathroom is en suite and you have your own closet. I took the liberty of buying some basic items for you, but we can go shopping for anything else you need. The room was beautiful. A large bed with soft blue bedding, wide windows overlooking a garden, a sitting area with comfortable chairs. It was bigger than the entire attic bedroom Nia had lived in at her uncle's house. It's perfect, Nia whispered. Thank you. Mrs. Rodriguez smiled. Dinner will be at 7. If you need anything before then, just press the button by the bed and I'll come up. Welcome to the family, dear. After Mrs. Rodriguez left, Nia sat on the edge of the bed. She was still wearing her wedding dress, still had flowers in her hair. She was married. She had a husband. She lived in a mansion now with a kind housekeeper and a bedroom bigger than most apartments. And she had no idea what came next. Would you turn away from someone who needed help just because they couldn't repay you? Think about that as you watch Nia's story unfold. And if this story touches your heart, please subscribe and share your thoughts in the comments. Sometimes the people we think are unwanted are simply waiting for someone to see their true worth. Nia woke the next morning to sunlight streaming through windows she'd forgotten to cover. For a moment she didn't know where she was. Then memory rushed back. The wedding. Julian's frozen expression when he lifted her veil. This beautiful room that was somehow hers now. She sat up slowly, her body stiff from tension. The wedding dress hung on the closet door where she'd left it last night. She'd been too tired and overwhelmed to put it away properly. Now in the morning light it looked almost sad. A symbol of a marriage that wasn't really a marriage at all. A knock on the door made her jump. Mrs. Hayes? Are you awake? Mrs. Rodriguez's voice was gentle through the door. Yes, come in. Mrs. Rodriguez entered carrying a tray with breakfast. I thought you might like to eat in your room this morning. Mr. Hayes had to leave early for the office, but he said to tell you to make yourself at home. Explore the house, use anything you'd like. Nia accepted the tray, touched by the gesture. Fresh fruit, toast, scrambled eggs and orange juice. More food than she usually ate for breakfast. At her uncle's house, she'd been expected to make do with whatever leftovers were available. Thank you. This is really kind. It's my pleasure. Mrs. Rodriguez sat in one of the chairs by the window. I hope you don't mind me saying, but you look a bit lost. Nia managed a small smile. I am lost. I don't really know what I'm supposed to do here. What Julian expects from me. Mr. Hayes is a good man, Mrs. Rodriguez said firmly. He works too hard and takes too much responsibility on his shoulders, but his heart is kind. He won't hurt you or make demands you can't meet. Give him time and give yourself time too. This is new for both of you. Did he tell you about the arrangement? That this marriage is really just for business? Mrs. Rodriguez's expression softened. He told me the circumstances, yes. But I've worked for Mr. Hayes for 10 years, and I've never seen him look at anyone the way he looked at you yesterday when he lifted that veil. Whatever this marriage started as, it doesn't have to stay that way. Nia wanted to believe that, but hope felt dangerous. She'd spent too many years hoping her uncle would finally see her as family, that things would get better, that someone would care. Hope had only led to disappointment. After Mrs. Rodriguez left, Nia showered and dressed in one of the simple outfits the housekeeper had bought for her. A green sweater and jeans. Comfortable clothes, casual clothes. She'd spent years wearing Gerald's cast-off donations, things that never quite fit right. These clothes were new and soft and chosen just for her. She spent the morning exploring the house. 8 bedrooms, 6 bathrooms, a formal dining room, a casual dining room, a library filled with books, a home gym, and a massive kitchen where Mrs. Rodriguez was preparing lunch. Everything was clean and organized and beautiful. Mr. Hayes's mother was an interior designer, Mrs. Rodriguez explained when she found Nia admiring the artwork in the living room. She decorated most of the house herself before she passed. Mr. Hayes hasn't changed much since then. I think keeping it the same helps him feel close to her. When did she die? 5 years ago. Cancer. It was very hard on him and his sister. His father is still alive but lives across the country. They're not close. Nia studied a painting of a sunset over water. The colors were bold and beautiful. She was talented. She was There's actually a studio upstairs, the small room at the end of the east hallway. It's been locked since she died. Mr. Hayes couldn't bear to go in there. Something about that made Nia sad. A whole room full of creativity and beauty, locked away because of grief. She understood that feeling. She'd locked away parts of herself too, hiding them from her uncle's criticism. Julian came home at 6 that evening. Nia was in the library looking through books when she heard the front door open. Her stomach tightened nervously. She'd been alone with her thoughts all day, and now she'd have to face her husband. Her stranger husband who'd married her to save his company. Nia? Julian's voice called from the hallway. In here. He appeared in the library doorway, still wearing his work clothes. A blue dress shirt with the sleeves rolled up, dark slacks. He looked tired, but his expression brightened slightly when he saw her. Hi. How was your day? The question was so normal, so domestic, that it threw Nia off balance. It was fine. Mrs. Rodriguez showed me around. You have a beautiful home. It's your home too now. He loosened his tie. I wanted to talk to you about something. I've been thinking about this situation, about what we both need from this arrangement. Nia braced herself. Here it came. The rules, the expectations, the list of things she'd have to do to earn her place in this house. Julian sat down in the chair across from her. I don't want you to feel trapped here. I know this marriage wasn't your choice. Your uncle forced you into it just like my company situation forced me into it. But I want you to know that you have freedom here. You don't have to ask permission to go places or do things. This isn't a prison. Nia blinked. That wasn't what she'd expected at all. I also want you to know, Julian continued, that I won't force you into anything physical. I know some arranged marriages come with certain expectations. But I'm not that kind of man. This is your home, your safe space. You set the boundaries. Why are you being so kind to me? The question came out before Nia could stop it. You don't know me. I'm just part of a business deal. You don't owe me kindness. Julian was quiet for a moment. When I lifted your veil yesterday, I expected to see exactly what your uncle had described. Someone plain, unremarkable. I was prepared to be polite, to do my duty, to make the best of a bad situation. He met her eyes. But then I saw you. And I realized your uncle had lied about everything. If he lied about something as obvious as what you look like, what else did he lie about? Who you are, what you deserve, why you agreed to this marriage. Tears burned behind Nia's eyes. She looked away, not wanting him to see how much his words affected her. You asked me why I'm being kind, Julian said softly. The truth is, I don't think anyone has been kind to you in a very long time. And that's not right. You deserve better. Nia wiped at her eyes. I don't know how to do this. How to be a wife. How to live in a place like this. I don't know what you need from me. I don't need anything from you except honesty. If you're unhappy, tell me. If you need something, tell me. If you want to leave, tell me that too. I won't keep you prisoner here. He stood up. I'm going to change out of these work clothes. Dinner should be ready soon. Will you join me? Nia nodded, not trusting her voice. That night, they ate dinner together at the kitchen table. Not the formal dining room, but the small table where Mrs. Rodriguez usually ate her own meals. It felt less intimidating that way, more normal. They talked about simple things. Julian asked about her day, told her about his work. He explained that his company created software for hospitals, systems that helped doctors keep track of patient information and made healthcare more efficient. The merger with Gerald's company would give them access to new technology and funding they desperately needed. 800 people work for me, Julian said. Some of them have been with the company since the beginning. They have families, mortgages, kids in college. When the company started failing, I knew I had to do whatever it took to save their jobs. Even if that meant marrying a stranger, Nia finished. Yes, I'm not proud of it. It feels wrong using marriage as a business transaction. But I didn't see another choice. I understand. My uncle has spent years reminding me that I'm a burden, that I cost him money and gave him nothing in return. When he told me about this marriage, he made it clear that I should be grateful someone was willing to take me. That this was the best offer I'd ever get. Julian's expression darkened. Your uncle is a cruel man. He's the only family I have. No, Julian said firmly. He was the only family you had. That's changed now. After dinner, Nia helped Mrs. Rodriguez clean up despite the housekeeper's protests. Then she went upstairs to her room. She could hear Julian moving around in his room across the hall, getting ready for bed. The sounds were strange and intimate. She was used to silence, to being alone. Now there was someone else just a few feet away. She lay in bed staring at the ceiling. Tomorrow would be her first full day as Mrs. Hayes. She still didn't know what that meant, what her life would look like now. But for the first time in years, she felt something other than dread about the future. She felt hope. And even though hope was dangerous, even though it had hurt her before, she let herself hold on to it. Just for tonight. The first week of marriage passed in a strange routine. Julian left for work early each morning and returned late each evening. They ate dinner together, made polite conversation, then retreated to their separate rooms. It was civil, comfortable even, but distant. Nia spent her days exploring the house and reading books from the library. Mrs. Rodriguez tried to get her to relax, to treat the mansion like her own home, but Nia couldn't shake the feeling that she was a guest. A temporary visitor who might be asked to leave at any moment. On the 8th day of her marriage, Nia discovered the locked room. She'd been walking down the east hallway when she noticed the door Mrs. Rodriguez had mentioned. Unlike the other doors which were painted white, this one was a warm oak. A small brass lock held it closed. Nia tried the handle, knowing it wouldn't open. Something about that locked door called to her. A room full of art supplies and creativity, sealed away because of pain. She understood that impulse. She'd locked away parts of herself too. The key is in the kitchen, Mrs. Rodriguez said behind her. Nia jumped. Top drawer left side. Mr. Hayes doesn't know I kept it. He told me to throw it away but I couldn't. His mother loved that room. Why did he lock it? Grief makes people do strange things. Some people need to close doors to move forward. But I always thought maybe someday he'd want to open it again. Mrs. Rodriguez smiled gently. Maybe you're the one who should open it. Me? I couldn't. It's not my place. You're his wife. This is your home. That makes it your place. After Mrs. Rodriguez left, Nia stood in front of the locked door for a long time. Finally, she went downstairs, found the key and came back. Her hand shook as she inserted it into the lock. The door opened with a soft click. Inside was a beautiful studio. Large windows let in natural light. Easels stood in corners, canvases stacked against walls. Shelves held paints, brushes, pencils and charcoal. A long table was covered in art supplies, everything organized and waiting. Nia stepped inside and felt something shift in her chest. Her mother had painted. Nia barely remembered her, but she had vague memories of sitting in a sunny room while her mother worked on canvases, humming softly. After the accident, Gerald had thrown away all her mother's art supplies. Wasteful hobbies, he'd called them. Nia approached one of the easels. A half-finished painting sat there, a landscape of mountains and sky. Julian's mother had been talented. The brushstrokes were confident, the colors vivid. Without thinking, Nia picked up a brush. Then she set up a blank canvas and began to paint. She lost track of time. The world narrowed to canvas and color, to the feeling of creating something from nothing. She painted without planning, letting instinct guide her. Trees emerged, then a path, then a small figure walking toward light. What are you doing? Nia spun around, nearly dropping the brush. Julian stood in the doorway, his expression unreadable. She'd been so focused that she hadn't heard him come home. I'm sorry, she said quickly. Mrs. Rodriguez said the key was in the kitchen. I shouldn't have come in here without asking. I'll clean everything up. You paint. It wasn't a question. A little. My mother taught me before she died. I haven't done it in years. Gerald said it was a waste of time. Nia set the brush down carefully. I really am sorry. I know this room is private. Julian walked into the studio slowly, looking around at the space he'd locked away 5 years ago. His eyes were sad but not angry. My mother spent hours in here, he said quietly. After she got sick, she couldn't paint anymore. It hurt too much to be in this room and know she'd never finish another canvas. After she died, I couldn't bear to see all her unfinished work. So I locked it away. That must have been incredibly hard. It was. Still is. He moved to stand beside Nia, looking at the canvas she'd been working on. But maybe locking it away wasn't the right choice. Maybe it would have honored her more to keep creating, to keep this space alive. He turned to look at Nia directly. Don't apologize for painting here. I think my mother would have liked knowing someone was using her studio. And your work is beautiful. Nia glanced at the canvas. It was rough, unfinished, but there was something honest about it. It's not very good. It's better than you think. Julian studied the painting for another moment. Why did you stop? After your mother died. Gerald said I needed to focus on practical things. Being useful. Art wasn't useful. Nia's voice was bitter. He threw away all my mother's paintings and supplies. Said they were taking up too much space. Julian's jaw tightened. Your uncle is lucky I need his business partnership, because right now I'd like to tell him exactly what I think of how he treated you. It doesn't matter anymore. It does matter. The way people treat us shapes how we see ourselves. Your uncle spent years telling you that you weren't good enough, that you were a burden. But he was wrong. Julian turned to face her fully. You're talented, Nia. This painting proves it. And even if you weren't, you'd still have value. You'd still deserve kindness and respect. Nia's throat tightened. She'd spent so long believing Gerald's words that hearing the opposite felt surreal. Can I tell you something? Julian asked. Of course. When I agreed to this marriage, I thought I was doing it purely for my company. To save jobs and keep the business alive. That was true, but there was another reason too. He ran a hand through his hair, looking uncomfortable. I was lonely. My mother died, my father moved away, my sister is at college across the country. I threw myself into work because it was easier than dealing with feelings. When your uncle proposed this arrangement, part of me thought maybe having a wife would make the house feel less empty. Did it work? Nia asked softly. Yes, Julian said. But not in the way I expected. I thought you'd just be someone else living here. Instead, you're someone I actually want to know. Someone who opens locked doors and creates beauty and doesn't treat marriage like a transaction, even though that's exactly what it is. They stood in the studio, surrounded by his mother's unfinished work and Nia's new beginning. The evening light came through the windows, painting everything golden. Tell me about your company, Nia said. I want to understand what you do. Julian's expression brightened. He started explaining his work, his passion for making healthcare better through technology. As he talked, Nia saw a different side of him. Not the careful, controlled businessman who'd married her out of necessity, but someone who genuinely cared about helping people. What got you interested in healthcare technology? She asked. My mother. When she was sick, the hospital systems were so inefficient. Information got lost, appointments got mixed up, her medical history wasn't available when doctors needed it. I watched her struggle with a broken system and thought there had to be a better way. He looked at the half-finished painting his mother had left behind. I started the company because of her. Every patient whose life gets easier because of our software, that's for her. She'd be proud of you. I hope so. Julian checked his watch. It's late. We should probably eat dinner. But neither of them moved. There was something comfortable about this space, this conversation. It felt real in a way their polite dinners didn't. Can I keep painting here? Nia asked. I'll be careful with everything. I won't move your mother's work. You can do whatever you want with this room, Julian said. Paint, reorganize, finish my mother's canvases if you feel inspired. This studio should be used, not locked away gathering dust. That night at dinner, their conversation flowed more easily. Julian asked about Nia's childhood, the years before the accident. She told him about her parents, the happy memories that had faded but never quite disappeared. He shared stories about his mother, about growing up in this house, about the sister who called him every week from college to complain about homework. You should meet Bria, Julian said. My sister. She's home for break next month. I think you two would get along. Does she know about the arrangement? About why we really got married? She knows it started as business. But she also knows I wouldn't have gone through with it if I didn't think it could become something real. He met Nia's eyes across the table. I'm starting to think it already is. Nia's heart beat faster. She wanted to believe him, wanted to trust that this marriage could become more than a contract. But trust was hard when you'd spent years learning that people always let you down. Still, as she got ready for bed that night, she felt lighter than she had in years. She had a beautiful room, a kind housekeeper, a husband who respected her boundaries and encouraged her art. It wasn't love, not yet, but it was something. It was possibility. And sometimes possibility was enough. 2 weeks into the marriage, Julian came home looking like he'd aged 5 years in one day. His shoulders were tight, his jaw clenched. He barely acknowledged Mrs. Rodriguez as he headed straight for his home office. Nia was in the art studio working on a new painting. She'd spent hours there every day since Julian had given her permission to use it. The act of creating helped quiet her anxious thoughts and made her feel connected to the mother she barely remembered. She set down her brush and went downstairs. Through the closed office door, she could hear Julian on the phone, his voice strained. I understand your concerns, but I need you to give me more time. No, the merger is solid. Because I said so, that's why. Nia hesitated, then knocked softly. Julian? Silence. Then, come in. She opened the door. Julian sat at his desk, his head in his hands. The phone lay on the desk beside him. What happened? The business deal is falling apart. His voice was flat, defeated. My lead investor, Thomas Bradford, is threatening to pull out. He says the merger with your uncle's company isn't enough. He wants proof that our management is stable, that we're making good decisions. He thinks this marriage is a sign of desperation rather than strategy. What does he want you to do? He wants me to prove the marriage is real. That it's not just a business arrangement. He says if my personal life is a sham, he can't trust my business judgment. Julian laughed bitterly. The irony is that he's right. This marriage did start as a business arrangement. But how do I prove it's becoming something more when I'm not even sure that's true? Nia sat down in the chair across from his desk. What happens if he pulls out? I lose the funding I need to complete the merger. Without that funding, the deal with your uncle falls through. The company goes bankrupt. 800 people lose their jobs. He looked up at her, his eyes tired. Everything I've worked for gone. And it's not just about me. It's about all those families depending on those paychecks. Then we prove the marriage is real. How? We sleep in separate rooms. We barely know each other. Any investigator worth hiring would see through us in minutes. So we change that, Nia said firmly. We spend more time together. We learn about each other. We act like a real married couple. I can't ask you to do that. You didn't sign up for. Yes, I did, Nia interrupted. I married you, Julian. Maybe it started as a business deal, but those 800 people you're trying to protect? They matter. Their families matter. If I can help save their jobs by being a better wife, then that's what I'll do. Julian studied her face. Why would you do this? You don't owe me anything. Maybe not. But I owe myself something. For 18 years I let my uncle make me feel worthless. I let him tell me that I was a burden who gave nothing back. Here's my chance to prove him wrong. Here's my chance to actually help people, to matter. She leaned forward. Let me do this, Julian. Let me help. He was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded. Okay. But if at any point this becomes too much, you tell me. Deal? Deal. They spent the next 3 days planning. Thomas Bradford was hosting a charity gala on Saturday night. All of Julian's major investors and business partners would be there. It was the perfect opportunity to show that his marriage was genuine. Mrs. Rodriguez took Nia shopping for a dress. They found a beautiful red gown that hugged Nia's curves and made her feel elegant. The color was bold, confident. Everything she'd never been allowed to be at her uncle's house. You look stunning, Mrs. Rodriguez said as Nia tried on the dress. Mr. Hayes won't be able to take his eyes off you. That's kind of the point, Nia said, but her stomach was full of butterflies. This would be her first public appearance as Mrs. Hayes. Everyone would be watching, judging, looking for cracks in the facade. On Saturday evening, Nia stood in front of the mirror in her room, barely recognizing herself. The dress fit perfectly. Mrs. Rodriguez had helped with her hair and makeup, creating a look that was sophisticated but not overdone. A knock on her door. Nia? Are you ready? She opened the door to find Julian in a sharp black suit. His eyes widened when he saw her. You look. He trailed off, seeming at a loss for words. Is it too much? Nia asked nervously. No, it's perfect. You're perfect. He offered his arm. Ready to convince everyone we're madly in love? Nia took his arm, feeling the warmth of him through the fabric of his suit. Ready as I'll ever be. The gala was held at a 5-star hotel downtown. As their car pulled up to the entrance, Nia saw photographers waiting. Her heart raced. Remember, Julian said softly, we're a happy couple. We're in love. We chose each other. Right. We chose each other. He squeezed her hand gently. You can do this. I believe in you. They stepped out of the car into a storm of camera flashes. Julian kept his hand on the small of Nia's back, guiding her through the crowd. People called out questions. Mr. Hayes, is this your new wife? How did you two meet? Any comment on the rumors about your company? Julian smiled but didn't answer, just kept moving forward. Inside the hotel, the ballroom was filled with elegantly dressed people holding champagne glasses and making deals disguised as small talk. Julian, there you are. A tall man with silver hair approached them. His smile was cold. And this must be the mysterious Mrs. Hayes. We've all been curious to meet you. Thomas Bradford, Julian said, his voice careful. This is my wife, Nia. Charming, Bradford said, looking Nia up and down like she was a car he was considering buying. I was beginning to think you didn't exist. Julian has been very protective of you. He's been giving me time to adjust to married life, Nia said smoothly. It's a big change. Indeed. And how did you two meet? The romance must have been quite whirlwind since none of us knew Julian was even dating anyone. This was a test. Nia could feel it. Bradford was looking for inconsistencies, for signs that the marriage was fake. We met through family, Nia said. Julian needed someone who understood the demands of running a business. I understood what it meant to sacrifice for the people you care about. We connected over that. How convenient, Bradford said. And the fact that your uncle's company provided the exact merger Julian needed had nothing to do with it? Of course it did, Julian said before Nia could respond. I'm not going to pretend my professional life and personal life exist in separate bubbles. Nia understood what I was facing. She offered to help. I fell in love with her because she saw past the business pressure to the man underneath. She chose me when she could have walked away. It was a good answer, honest enough to be believable. Bradford's expression didn't change. Well, I suppose we'll see, he said. Actions speak louder than words after all. Enjoy the evening. He walked away. Nia let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. That went better than I expected, Julian murmured. He doesn't believe us. Not yet. But he will. They spent the evening working the room. Julian introduced Nia to his business partners, his investors, his employees. With each introduction, Nia felt more confident. She asked questions about people's work, remembered names, made genuine connections. These were good people who cared about Julian's company. They deserved to keep their jobs. And slowly she saw the skepticism in people's eyes fade. They saw how Julian looked at her, how he kept his hand on her back or her arm, how he included her in conversations. They saw how she looked at him with respect and growing affection. It wasn't entirely an act. The more time Nia spent with Julian, the more she genuinely liked him. He was kind, intelligent, passionate about his work. He treated her like an equal, not a possession. He listened when she spoke and valued her opinions. Around 10 o'clock, the band started playing slow music. Couples moved to the dance floor. May I have this dance, Mrs. Hayes? Julian asked formally. Nia placed her hand in his. You may, Mr. Hayes. On the dance floor, Julian pulled her close. One hand held hers, the other rested on her waist. They swayed to the music. And for a moment, Nia forgot about the watching eyes and the business deal and the fact that this marriage had started as a transaction. Thank you for doing this, Julian said quietly. I know tonight was probably overwhelming. It was. But it was also good. Your colleagues care about you. They want the company to succeed. They do. Which is why I can't let them down. He met her eyes. But I also don't want to let you down. This isn't fair to you, asking you to play a role. What if it's not entirely a role anymore? The words came out before Nia could stop them. Julian's hand tightened on her waist. What do you mean? I mean, when I defended our marriage to Bradford, I wasn't completely lying. I do understand sacrifice. I do see past the business pressure to who you really are. And I. She trailed off, not quite ready to finish that sentence. You what? Julian's voice was soft, hopeful. I'm starting to care about you, Nia admitted. As more than just a business partner. As more than just the man whose house I live in. As my husband. Julian was quiet for a moment. Then he leaned in closer, his forehead nearly touching hers. I'm starting to care about you too. More than I expected. More than I probably should, given how this all started. They swayed together, the rest of the room fading away. This wasn't about the gala anymore, or the business deal, or proving anything to anyone. This was real. When the song ended, they pulled apart reluctantly. Bradford was watching them from across the room, his expression thoughtful. He raised his champagne glass slightly, a gesture that might have been acknowledgement or might have been a challenge. Either way, Nia thought as Julian led her off the dance floor, they'd done what they needed to do. They'd shown everyone that their marriage was real. And the truth was, it was becoming more real every day. The gala changed something between Julian and Nia. They stopped being polite strangers sharing a house and started being something more. Partners. Friends. Maybe even the beginning of what real marriages were supposed to look like. Julian started coming home earlier. Instead of retreating to his office, he'd find Nia in the art studio and watch her paint. Sometimes he'd sit in comfortable silence. Other times they'd talk for hours, sharing stories about their lives, their fears, their dreams. Why software for hospitals? Nia asked one evening as she worked on a painting of the ocean. You could have created any kind of company. Why that specifically? Julian was quiet for a moment. Because healthcare is personal. It's not just about profit or market share. It's about real people in their most vulnerable moments. When my mother was dying, I felt so helpless. I couldn't cure her cancer, couldn't take away her pain. But I thought maybe I could make the system around her better. So that's what I've tried to do. Nia set down her brush. That's beautiful, Julian. She'd be really proud. I hope so. He looked at the painting she was working on. You're getting better. This one is incredible. You're just being nice. I'm being honest. You have real talent, Nia. Have you ever thought about showing your work? Maybe in a gallery? The idea made Nia laugh. Who would want to see my paintings? I would. Mrs. Rodriguez would. Probably a lot of other people too. Julian stood up and came to stand beside her. You've spent so long being told you're not good enough. It's going to take time to believe differently. But I'll keep telling you until you believe it. Their hands were inches apart on the table. Julian moved his hand to cover hers, a simple gesture that sent warmth through Nia's entire body. I'm glad I married you, she said softly. Even though it started the way it did, I'm glad. Me too. The following week, Julian's sister Bria came home for a visit. She was 19 in her second year of college studying art history. When Julian told Nia his sister was coming, Nia felt nervous. This would be her first time meeting Julian's family. What if Bria hated her? What if she saw through the marriage and realized it had started as a business deal? But when Bria burst through the front door on Friday afternoon, all energy and bright smiles, those fears disappeared. You must be Nia, Bria said, pulling Nia into an unexpected hug. I'm so excited to finally meet you. Julian has told me so much about you. She was beautiful, with dark skin like her brother's and natural hair pulled back in a colorful scarf. She wore a bright yellow shirt and jeans, and her whole presence seemed to light up the room. It's wonderful to meet you too, Nia said, returning the hug. Where is my boring brother? Bria asked, looking around. Still at work, Nia said. He should be home in about an hour. Perfect. That gives us time to talk without him hovering. Bria linked her arm through Nia's. Show me everything. I want to see what you've done with the house, hear all about the wedding, know everything. Over the next hour, Nia showed Bria around the mansion. When they reached the art studio, Bria gasped. You opened Mom's studio? Julian said he'd locked it away. I hope that's okay. He gave me permission. It's more than okay. It's amazing. Bria walked around the room looking at Nia's paintings. These are yours? Nia, you're really talented. Thank you. Your mother's work inspired me. She was incredible. Bria's eyes filled with tears. She was. I miss her every day. She wiped at her eyes. Sorry, I didn't mean to get emotional. Don't apologize. I understand. I lost my parents too. They sat together in the studio, two young women bonded by loss and art. Bria told stories about her mother, about growing up in this house, about how much Julian had struggled after their mother died. He threw himself into work, Bria said. It was like he couldn't let himself feel anything because if he started, he'd never stop. That's why he locked this room. Too many feelings in here. He's opening up more now, Nia said. At least I think he is. That's because of you. He's different since you came. Lighter somehow. Like he remembered it's okay to be happy. Bria smiled. I'm really glad he married you, Nia. Even if it was sudden. Julian came home to find his wife and sister in the studio, laughing over stories and looking at art. The smile on his face was genuine and warm. I see you two are getting along, he said from the doorway. Your wife is amazing, Bria announced. I'm keeping her. You can't have her back. I don't think that's how marriage works, Julian said, but he was still smiling. They had dinner together that night, all three of them plus Mrs. Rodriguez, who Bria hugged like family. The conversation flowed easily, full of laughter and shared memories. Nia felt like she belonged here, like she was actually part of this family instead of just someone passing through. After dinner, Bria insisted on looking through old photo albums. She pulled out pictures of Julian as a child, of their mother, of family vacations and holidays. Nia studied the photos, seeing glimpses of the life this family had built together. This was Mom's favorite picture, Bria said, pointing to a photo of a woman in the art studio, paint splattered on her clothes and a huge smile on her face. Dad took it the day she finished her first big commission. She was so proud. She was beautiful, Nia said. She would have loved you, Bria said confidently. She always wanted Julian to find someone kind and creative. Someone who understood that there's more to life than business deals and profit margins. Julian's hand found Nia's under the table, squeezing gently. Over the weekend, the three of them fell into an easy rhythm. They cooked breakfast together, took walks in the garden, watched movies in the evening. Bria treated Nia like the sister she'd always wanted. asking her opinion on everything from her college classes to what color she should paint her dorm room. On Sunday afternoon, Bria pulled Nia aside. "Can I tell you something?" "Of course. I know why Julian married you. He told me about the business deal, about needing the merger to save the company." Bria's expression was serious. "At first I was worried. I thought he was making a huge mistake, marrying someone he didn't love just for business reasons. But now that I've met you, I understand." "Understand what?" "Why it worked. You two are good together. Maybe it started as business, but it's not just business anymore. Anyone can see that." Bria smiled. "Julian looks at you the way Dad used to look at Mom. Like you're the most important person in the room. That's not acting. That's real." Nia's heart swelled. "I care about him too. A lot." "Good. Because he deserves someone who sees him for who he really is. Not just the successful businessman or the guy trying to save 800 jobs. The real Julian who loves art even though he can't paint, who visits sick kids at the hospital every month, who cries at sad movies but tries to hide it." "He cries at sad movies?" "Every single time. Don't tell him I told you." Bria hugged Nia tightly. "Thank you for making my brother happy again. And thank you for opening Mom's studio. I think she'd be really glad to know someone was creating in there." When Bria left on Monday morning to go back to college, she made Nia promise to call her often. "We're sisters now," she said firmly. "That means we talk and share everything and support each other. Deal?" "Deal," Nia agreed. After Bria drove away, Julian pulled Nia into his arms. "Thank you for being so wonderful with my sister. She adores you. I adore her too. She's amazing." "She is. And so are you." Julian pulled back to look at Nia's face. This weekend felt like what family is supposed to feel like. What marriage is supposed to feel like. "It did," Nia agreed softly. "I know we said this was just an arrangement. That we keep things separate, professional. But Nia, I don't want that anymore. I want this to be real. I want us to be real." Nia's breath caught. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I'm falling for you. Maybe I have been since I lifted that veil and realized your uncle had lied about everything. Maybe it happened during the gala when you defended our marriage like it actually mattered. Or maybe it was yesterday watching you laugh with my sister like you'd known her your whole life." He cupped her face gently. "I don't know when it happened, but it did. And I need to know if there's any chance you might feel the same way." Nia's eyes filled with tears. Happy tears this time. "I feel the same way, Julian. I didn't want to. It seemed dangerous to care about you when I was so sure you'd eventually realize I wasn't worth keeping. But I can't help it. I care about you. I'm falling for you too." Julian smiled, a real smile that lit up his whole face. Then he leaned in and kissed her. Not a formal wedding kiss this time, but something real and warm and full of promise. When they pulled apart, Nia was breathless. "So what happens now?" she asked. "Now we stop pretending this is just business. Now we build something real together." Julian took her hand. "If you wanted, that is." "I want to," Nia said without hesitation. And for the first time since the wedding, she felt like this marriage might actually become what marriages were supposed to be. Not a business deal or a sacrifice, but a partnership built on respect and affection and growing love. 3 weeks after Bria's visit, Nia's uncle showed up at the mansion unannounced. She was in the garden with Mrs. Rodriguez, discussing which flowers to plant, when she heard raised voices from inside the house. "I don't care if he's busy. I need to speak with my niece. Now." Nia's blood ran cold. She'd recognized that voice anywhere. Gerald Morrison. She hurried inside to find her uncle in the foyer, arguing with Julian. Gerald looked the same as always. Expensive suit, cold eyes, the expression of a man who thought the world owed him something. "Nia," Gerald said when he saw her. His smile didn't reach his eyes. "There you are. I need to talk to you. Privately." "Whatever you need to say, you can say in front of my husband," Nia said, moving to stand beside Julian. Gerald's expression soured. "Fine. I'll be direct. I need money. $1 million to be exact." "For what?" Julian asked coldly. "That's none of your concern. Nia owes me. I raised her for 18 years after her parents died. Clothed her, fed her, gave her a roof over her head. Now it's time she paid me back." Nia felt sick. "You forced me into this marriage to get rid of me. You said I was a burden, that you were doing me a favor by finding someone willing to take me. Now you want me to pay you? Think of it as compensation for my trouble. Raising you wasn't easy or cheap." Gerald crossed his arms. "Besides, you can afford it now. You're married to a billionaire. $1 million is nothing to you. Get out." Julian said, his voice dangerously quiet. Excuse me? I said get out of my house. You have no right to demand money from Nia. No right to speak to her at all after the way you've treated her. Gerald's face turned red. I have every right. She's my niece. And if you don't give me what I'm asking for, I'll tell everyone the truth about this marriage. That it's a sham. A business deal to save your failing company. How do you think your investors will react when they find out? The threat hung in the air like poison. Nia saw Julian's jaw clench, saw the anger in his eyes. But she also saw something else. He was looking to her, waiting to see what she wanted to do. For 18 years, Nia had let Gerald control her. She'd accepted his cruelty, his insults, his complete lack of love. She'd believed him when he said she was worthless. But she wasn't that person anymore. No, Nia said firmly. Gerald blinked. What? I said no. You're not getting any money. You're not getting anything from me ever again. Nia stepped forward, her fear transforming into anger. You took me in after my parents died and I'm grateful for that. But you didn't raise me with love. You raised me with resentment. You made me feel like I was a burden every single day. You told me I was ugly, worthless, that I should be grateful anyone would even look at me. I was trying to give you realistic expectations, Gerald said defensively. You were being cruel. And I let you because I was a child and I had nowhere else to go. But I'm not a child anymore. I'm an adult. I'm married. I have a family now who actually cares about me. So you can take your threats and your demands and leave. I don't owe you anything. You ungrateful little. Watch how you speak to my wife, Julian said, stepping between Gerald and Nia. His voice was ice. Nia has given you her answer. Now I'll give you mine. If you try to tell anyone that our marriage is fake, I'll make sure every business contact you have knows exactly what kind of man you are. How you treated your orphan niece. How you extorted her into a marriage so you could benefit from a business deal. I don't think your reputation will survive that kind of exposure. Gerald's face went from red to pale. You wouldn't. Try me. I have more money and more connections than you'll ever have. If you come after Nia, if you try to hurt her in any way, I will destroy you. Professionally and personally. That's not a threat. It's a promise. For a long moment, Gerald just stared at them. Then he laughed, a bitter, ugly sound. You deserve each other. A desperate businessman and an unwanted orphan. What a pair. Get out, Nia said. And don't come back. Gerald left, slamming the door behind him. The sound echoed through the house. Then there was silence. Nia's hands were shaking. Now that the adrenaline was fading, she felt sick and scared and angry all at once. Are you okay? Julian asked, taking her hands in his. I don't know. That was terrifying. You were amazing. The way you stood up to him, the way you refused to let him intimidate you. Nia, I've never been more proud of anyone in my life. Mrs. Rodriguez appeared from the kitchen, her face concerned. Is everything all right? I heard shouting. Everything's fine, Mrs. Rodriguez, Julian said. Gerald Morrison won't be bothering us anymore. That night, Nia couldn't sleep. She kept replaying the confrontation in her head, kept hearing Gerald's cruel words. You ungrateful little. She'd cut him off before he could finish, but she knew what he was going to say. A soft knock on her door. Nia? Can I come in? Yes. Julian entered, wearing pajama pants and a t-shirt. I saw your light was still on. Are you okay? I keep thinking about what he said. That I'm ungrateful. Julian sat on the edge of her bed. You're not ungrateful. You're strong. There's a difference. I feel guilty. He did take care of me after my parents died. Maybe I do owe him something. No, Julian said firmly. Providing basic care for a child doesn't give someone the right to abuse them emotionally. Nia, your uncle was supposed to love you. Instead, he made you feel worthless. You don't owe him gratitude for that. What if he follows through on his threat? What if he tells everyone about the business arrangement? Then we deal with it. Together. Julian took her hand. But I don't think he will. He has too much to lose. And honestly, even if he does, it doesn't matter anymore. What do you mean? I mean, yes, our marriage started as a business deal. But it's not that anymore. Everyone who saw us at the gala knows that. My sister knows it. Mrs. Rodriguez knows it. Most importantly, we know it. He squeezed her hand. What we have is real, Nia. No one can take that away from us. Nia felt tears sliding down her cheeks. I was so scared he'd ruin everything. That I'd lose this life, lose you. You're not going to lose me. I promise. Julian pulled her into his arms, holding her close. You're stuck with me now, remember? For better or worse, in sickness and health, until death do us part. We made those vows and I meant them. Even though we barely knew each other when we made them? Even though, maybe especially because, we had no reason to make this work except that we both chose to try. That means something. Nia buried her face in his shoulder, breathing in the familiar scent of him. Thank you for defending me. For standing up to Gerald. Always. That's what husbands do. He pulled back to look at her face. Do you want me to stay? Just until you fall asleep? Nia nodded. Please. Julian lay down beside her on top of the covers, keeping a respectful distance but close enough that she could feel his warmth. He held her hand as her breathing slowly steadied and sleep finally came. When she woke in the morning, Julian was gone. But there was a note on her nightstand in his handwriting. Good morning. You're stronger than you know. Today is going to be a good day. Jay. Nia smiled and held the note to her chest. Then she got up, got dressed, and went down to breakfast. Gerald had tried to drag her back into fear and obligation, but she'd refused. She'd chosen herself, chosen her new life, chosen Julian. And that felt like the beginning of something truly good. In the weeks after Gerald's visit, something shifted between Julian and Nia. The wall of politeness that had existed between them crumbled completely. They stopped sleeping in separate rooms. Not because of pressure or obligation, but because neither of them wanted to be apart. It started small. Julian falling asleep on Nia's bed while they talked late into the night. Nia waking up to find him still there, his arm draped protectively over her. Neither of them mentioned it, but the next night, Julian asked, "Mind if I stay again?" Nia didn't mind at all. They fell into new routines. Morning coffee together while Julian read the news and Nia sketched. Lunches when Julian could get away from the office. Evenings in the art studio where Julian would work on his laptop while Nia painted, both of them comfortable in the shared silence. Tell me something about you that no one else knows, Nia said one evening as she mixed paint colors. Julian looked up from his computer. Like what? Anything. Something real. He thought for a moment. I'm terrified of failing. Not just with the company but with everything. My father always said I was too soft, too emotional to run a business. After my mother died, I pushed myself twice as hard just to prove him wrong. But the fear never goes away. What if he was right? What if I'm not strong enough? Nia set down her brush and came to sit beside him. You're one of the strongest people I know. You saved 800 jobs. You stood up to my uncle. You opened your mother's art studio even though it hurt. That's not weakness, Julian. That's courage. Sometimes I wonder if you see me more clearly than I see myself. Maybe. Or maybe you just need to be kinder to yourself. She kissed his cheek. Your turn. Ask me something. What do you want from life? Not what your uncle wanted for you, not what you think you should want. What do you actually want? Nia was quiet for a long time. No one had ever asked her that before. I want to matter. I want to create things that make people feel something. I want to wake up and be excited about the day instead of just surviving it. And I want to be with someone who sees me, really sees me, not just what they want me to be. I see you, Julian said softly. Every day I see you more clearly. Their faces were close now, their breath mingling. Julian's hand came up to cup Nia's cheek, his thumb brushing across her skin. Can I kiss you? Not for show, not for anyone else. Just because I want to. Yes. The kiss was slow and sweet and full of promise. When they pulled apart, both of them were smiling. I should probably tell you something, Julian said. What? I think I'm falling in love with you. Nia's heart soared. Just falling? Because I think I already fell. Julian laughed and pulled her close again. They stayed like that for a long time, wrapped up in each other, feeling like they'd finally found what they'd both been searching for. The next morning, Nia woke to find Julian already awake, watching her with a soft expression. How long have you been staring at me? She asked, stretching. Not long. You're beautiful when you sleep. Actually, you're beautiful all the time, but especially when you sleep. You're being sappy. I'm being honest. He kissed her forehead. I have to go to the office for a few hours, but I was thinking maybe we could do something tonight. Just the two of us. A proper date. We're married. Don't married people skip the dating part? Not us. We did everything backwards. We got married before we even knew each other. I think we deserve some dates. He smiled. So what do you say? Dinner and a movie? Or we could go to that art gallery downtown you mentioned wanting to see. The art gallery sounds perfect. Julian left for work and Nia spent the morning painting. She was working on a new piece, something different from her usual landscapes. This painting was of two people, their faces close together, surrounded by light. It was Julian and her, she realized. Not a portrait exactly, but something more abstract. A feeling captured in color and form. Mrs. Rodriguez found her in the studio around noon. "You've been painting for 4 hours straight. You need to eat something." "I will, I promise. I just want to finish this section." Mrs. Rodriguez came to look at the canvas. "That's beautiful, Nia. Is that you and Mr. Hayes?" "Maybe. I'm not sure yet. It's still developing." "It's love," Mrs. Rodriguez said simply. "That's what you're painting. Anyone can see it." That evening Julian came home early. He was dressed casually in jeans and a green sweater, looking younger and more relaxed than Nia usually saw him. "Ready for our date?" he asked. They drove to the art gallery downtown. It was a small space, intimate and carefully curated. The current exhibition featured contemporary artists exploring themes of identity and belonging. Nia moved through the space slowly, studying each piece with the intensity of someone who understood the language of art. "What do you think of this one?" Julian asked, stopping in front of a large abstract painting filled with blues and greens. "I think it's about searching for home. See how the colors swirl but never quite settle? Like someone trying to find where they belong." Nia tilted her head. "But maybe I'm reading too much into it." "No, I think you're right. That's exactly what the artist's statement says." Julian pointed to the small placard beside the painting. "You have a gift for seeing what artists are trying to communicate." They spent 2 hours in the gallery discussing each piece, sharing their interpretations. Julian admitted he'd never really understood art before, but Nia's passion was making him see it differently. "It's not about understanding," Nia explained. "It's about feeling. Art is supposed to make you feel something, anything. Joy, sadness, confusion, peace. If it makes you feel, then it's doing its job." "Then you're doing your job," Julian said. "Because your paintings make me feel everything." After the gallery they went to dinner at a small Italian restaurant. Nothing fancy or expensive, just good food and quiet atmosphere. They talked about everything and nothing. Julian told her about the new contract his company had just secured. Nia told him about the painting she was working on. "I've been thinking," Julian said as they shared dessert. "Maybe you should do a show. Display your paintings publicly." "Julian, I'm not a professional artist. I just paint for fun." "You paint beautifully. And you deserve to share that with the world." He reached across the table to take her hand. "I know you're scared. I know your uncle spent years telling you that your art was worthless. But he was wrong about everything else, so why would he be right about that? What if people hate it? What if they love it? What if your work touches someone the way art has touched you?" He squeezed her hand. "You'll never know unless you try." Nia considered this. The idea was terrifying but also exciting. "Maybe. Let me think about it. That's all I ask." On the drive home, a sudden rainstorm hit. Rain pounded against the windshield, making it nearly impossible to see. Julian pulled over to wait it out. They sat in the parked car, listening to the rain drum on the roof. The windows fogged up, creating a private little world just for the two of them. "Can I tell you something?" Nia asked. "Always. I was so scared on our wedding day. I thought my life was over. I thought I was being sold to a man who would hate me or hurt me or just ignore me completely. Instead, I found you." Her voice caught. "You've given me everything, Julian. A home, a family, a chance to be myself. And the scary part is I keep waiting for it to be taken away. I keep waiting to wake up and find out this was all just a dream." Julian unbuckled his seatbelt and reached for her, pulling her as close as the car's interior would allow. "This is real, Nia. I'm real. What we have is real. And I'm not going anywhere. Promise?" "I promise. Through rainstorms and sunshine, through good days and bad days, through everything. I'm here." Nia kissed him then, pouring all her feelings into it. Love and gratitude and hope and joy. When they finally pulled apart, both of them were breathless. "I love you," Nia whispered. "I don't think I've ever said it out loud, but I do. I love you, Julian." "I love you too. More than I thought I was capable of loving anyone." He rested his forehead against hers. "You changed my life, Nia. You opened doors I'd locked, you brought color into gray spaces. They sat in the car until the rain stopped, holding each other, talking softly about their future. About the life they were building together. About dreams they'd stopped letting themselves dream. When they finally drove home, Nia felt lighter than air. She'd spent so many years believing she was unwanted, unlovable. But Julian saw her. He loved her. He chose her every single day. That night, they fell asleep wrapped in each other's arms. No more separate rooms, no more careful distance. Just two people who'd found each other in the most unexpected way and decided to build something beautiful together. Have you ever held back from sharing your gifts with the world because someone convinced you that you weren't good enough? Nia almost did. But sometimes, love gives us the courage to try. If this story is inspiring you, please hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments what dream you've been too afraid to chase. Your support helps me create more stories like this. 6 months into their marriage, Julian's company secured the biggest contract in its history. A nationwide hospital network wanted to implement his software across all 500 of their facilities. It was the kind of deal that would transform Hayes Industries from a struggling company to an industry leader. Julian came home that evening looking stunned. "We did it," he said as soon as he walked through the door. "The contract, it's ours. We actually did it." Nia squealed and threw her arms around him. "That's amazing. I'm so proud of you. It's not just me. It's you too." Julian pulled back to look at her face. "Remember 2 months ago when you suggested we expand into educational technology? Partner with medical schools to teach students how to use our systems?" "I remember. That's what sealed the deal. The hospital network loved that idea. They said it showed we were thinking long-term, that we cared about building the next generation of healthcare workers. Your idea saved us." Nia felt tears sting her eyes. "Really? Really? You're brilliant, Nia. Not just at art but at business too. You see connections other people miss." He kissed her softly. "The board wants to meet you. They want to thank you personally for your contribution." "The board? Julian, I'm not part of the company. I'm just your wife." "You're not just anything. You're my partner in every sense of the word. And it's time everyone knew that." The following week, Hayes Industries held a celebration dinner to announce the new contract. All the major investors and board members would be there, along with key employees. Julian insisted Nia come as his guest of honor. "I'm nervous," Nia admitted as she got dressed for the event. She'd chosen a blue dress, elegant and professional. "Don't be. They're going to love you. Just like I do." Julian adjusted his tie in the mirror. "Besides, you've already met most of them at the gala. They know you." "That was different. I was just arm candy then. Now you're saying I actually contributed to the company's success. What if they think I'm overstepping?" Julian turned to face her fully. "Listen to me. You are not overstepping. You had an idea, you shared it with me, and it worked. That's called being a good partner. And anyone who has a problem with that can take it up with me." The celebration was held at an upscale restaurant downtown. When Julian and Nia arrived, people immediately came over to congratulate them. Thomas Bradford, the investor who'd been so skeptical at the gala, was among the first. "Mrs. Hayes," he said, shaking her hand, "I owe you an apology. I doubted your marriage at first. I thought it was just a business arrangement. But I was clearly wrong. Any woman who can contribute ideas that transform a company while also supporting her husband through a crisis is the real deal." "Thank you, Mr. Bradford. That's very kind. It's honest. Julian is lucky to have you." Throughout the evening, people approached Nia to thank her. Employees who'd feared losing their jobs told her how grateful they were. Board members asked her opinion on other potential expansions. Investors wanted to know if she'd considered consulting for other companies. "You could have a career in business strategy," one board member said. "You have a natural talent for seeing opportunities." Nia had never considered that possibility. She'd spent so long believing she had nothing to offer that the idea of being valuable in a professional capacity felt foreign. When it was time for speeches, Julian stood at the front of the room. "I want to thank everyone for being here tonight. This contract represents years of hard work, sacrifice, and dedication. It represents 800 people who believed in this company even when things looked hopeless." The crowd applauded. "But I need to give credit where it's due," Julian continued. "My wife, Nia Hayes, suggested the educational technology partnership that sealed this deal. She saw what I'd been too close to see, that our value isn't just in what we provide now but in how we prepare for the future. This success is as much hers as it is mine." More applause. Julian gestured for Nia to join him at the front. She walked up, her heart pounding. "When I married Nia 6 months ago," Julian said, "I thought I was just saving my company. I had no idea I was gaining the best partner I could ever ask for. She's made me better, made this company better, and made all of our lives better. So this celebration isn't just about a contract. It's about the people who make success possible. Thank you, Nia. For everything." He kissed her in front of everyone. The room erupted in cheers and applause. Nia felt tears streaming down her face, but they were happy tears. Tears of joy and pride and belonging. After the speeches, Julian's CFO approached them. Mrs. Hayes, I have a proposition for you. We're looking for someone to head our Community Outreach and Educational Partnerships division. It would involve working with medical schools, hospitals, and training programs. Based on your idea and your obvious passion for helping people, I think you'd be perfect for it. Nia was speechless. I don't have any formal business experience. You have something better. Vision and heart. We can teach you the technical aspects. The rest you already have. The CFO smiled. Think about it. No pressure, but the position is yours if you want it. On the drive home, Nia was quiet. What are you thinking? Julian asked. I'm thinking that 6 months ago, I was living in my uncle's attic, believing I was worthless. Now I'm being offered a job at a major company. It doesn't feel real. It's real. And you deserve it. Julian glanced at her. Are you going to take the job? I don't know. Part of me wants to. But part of me is scared I'll fail. Failure is always a possibility. But so is success. And you'll never know unless you try. He reached over to take her hand. Whatever you decide, I support you. If you want to focus on your art, do that. If you want to work at the company, do that. If you want to do both, do that. This is your life, Nia. You get to choose. Nia squeezed his hand. I think I want to try. The job, I mean. It sounds exciting and scary and exactly the kind of challenge I need. Then you'll be amazing at it. That night, lying in bed together, Nia marveled at how much her life had changed. She had a husband who loved her, a family who supported her, a career opportunity that excited her, and art that fulfilled her. Everything she'd thought was impossible had become reality. Julian, she whispered in the darkness. Oh, thank you. For seeing me when I couldn't see myself. For believing in me when I'd stopped believing. For giving me a chance to become who I was meant to be. Julian pulled her closer. You did that yourself, Nia. I just got to watch. We did it together, Nia corrected. Like everything else. Like everything else, Julian agreed. And in that moment, Nia knew with absolute certainty that this marriage, which had started as a business transaction between strangers, had become the greatest blessing of her life. She'd been the bride no one wanted. But Julian had wanted her. Had chosen her. Had loved her. And that made all the difference. 3 months after taking the job at Hayes Industries, Nia was thriving. She'd thrown herself into building the Educational Partnerships division, connecting with medical schools across the country. Her natural empathy and creative problem-solving made her excellent at the work. Students and professors alike responded to her genuine passion for improving healthcare education. It was a Thursday afternoon when Bria called, crying so hard Nia could barely understand her. Slow down, Bria. What's wrong? I got accepted to the Advanced Art program at the Boston Institute. It's the best program in the country. But I have to do an interview next week and I'm terrified. What if I freeze? What if they realize I'm not good enough? What if I mess up this chance? Nia's heart ached for Julian's sister. She remembered that fear, that certainty that you weren't good enough. Bria, listen to me. You are talented and smart and more than qualified for that program. This fear you're feeling? It's normal. But it's not true. How do you know? Because I felt the same way when I started working at the company. I was convinced I'd fail, that everyone would realize I didn't belong there. But you know what? I did belong. And so do you. Nia paused. When's your interview? Tuesday at 2 o'clock. Then I'm coming to help you prepare. I'll fly up this weekend and we'll practice together. By the time Tuesday comes, you'll be ready. You do that for me? Of course. You're my sister. When Nia told Julian about the plan, he immediately supported it. Go. Bria needs you. And honestly, I think you need this too. You've been working so hard. A weekend away with my sister will be good for you. That Saturday, Nia flew to Boston. Bria met her at the airport, hugging her tightly. Thank you for coming. I know you're busy. Never too busy for family. They spent the weekend preparing. Nia helped Bria organize her portfolio, choose which pieces to highlight, and practice answering common interview questions. More importantly, she helped Bria believe in herself. You have a unique perspective, Nia said as they reviewed Bria's work. Your pieces explore themes of loss and healing in ways I've never seen before. That's valuable. The interviewers need to see that you're not just technically skilled but emotionally intelligent. Mom always said art should make people feel something. She was right. And your art does that. It made me feel something the first time I saw it. On Monday night, the night before the interview, Bria was too nervous to sleep. Nia sat with her in her dorm room, drinking tea and talking. Can I tell you a secret? Nia asked. Always. On my wedding day I was convinced my life was over. I thought I was being married off to someone who would hate me. I wore that thick veil because my uncle told me I was too ugly for anyone to want to look at me. I believed him. Bria's eyes filled with tears. That's horrible. It was. But then Julian lifted the veil and instead of disgust, I saw surprise. Later, I learned he'd expected someone plain and unremarkable because that's what Gerald had told him. When he saw me, he realized Gerald had lied about everything. Nia took Bria's hand. The point is, I spent years believing lies about myself. Lies that kept me small and scared. Don't make the same mistake. Don't let fear tell you who you are. How did you stop believing the lies? Slowly. With help. Julian saw me differently than I saw myself. Mrs. Rodriguez treated me with kindness I didn't think I deserved. You welcomed me as family when you barely knew me. All of you reflected back a version of myself I'd forgotten existed. Eventually I started to believe it. Bria wiped at her eyes. You're one of the strongest people I know. So are you? You've dealt with losing your mom, with your brother being consumed by work, with your dad being emotionally distant. And you kept creating art, kept pursuing your dreams. That's not weakness, Bria. That's courage. The next day, Nia sat in the waiting room while Bria had her interview. She couldn't sit still, too nervous on Bria's behalf. Finally, after an hour, Bria emerged. She was smiling. How did it go? Nia asked, jumping up. I think it went well. Really well. They loved my portfolio, especially the series about healing after loss. And when I started to get nervous, I remembered what you said about having a unique perspective. I let that guide my answers instead of trying to be what I thought they wanted. Bria hugged Nia. Thank you. I couldn't have done this without you. Yes, you could have. But I'm glad I got to be here. They flew back together that evening. Julian picked them up from the airport, pulling both women into a hug. How's my brilliant sister? He asked Bria. Cautiously optimistic. I'll know in 2 weeks if I got in. You got in, Julian said confidently. I have no doubt. That weekend, Julian's father unexpectedly called. He was in town for business and wanted to have dinner. Julian tensed when he told Nia about the invitation. You don't have to come if you don't want to, he said. My relationship with my dad is complicated. He's not the warmest person. I want to meet him. He's part of your family, which makes him part of mine. They met Richard Hayes at an upscale steakhouse. He was in his mid-60s with gray hair and Julian's same dark eyes. He shook Nia's hand formally, studying her with clear assessment. So you're the wife, he said. Julian mentioned the marriage was sudden. It was, Nia agreed, refusing to be intimidated. But sometimes the best things happen unexpectedly. Dinner was tense at first. Richard talked mostly about business, asking Julian pointed questions about the company's performance. He barely acknowledged Nia, treating her like decoration rather than a person. Finally, Nia had enough. Mr. Hayes, can I ask you something? What? Why did you move across the country after your wife died? Richard's expression hardened. That's a personal question. I'm family now. Family gets to ask personal questions. Nia met his gaze steadily. Your children needed you. Julian was trying to save the company his mother inspired him to build. Bria was grieving and struggling. But you left. Why? Nia, Julian said quietly, but she held up a hand. No, I want to know. Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you abandoned your kids when they needed you most. And now you show up and judge Julian's choices without acknowledging your own. Richard was silent for a long moment. Then, surprisingly, his expression softened slightly. You're right. I did abandon them. After Margaret died, I couldn't stand being in that house, seeing her things, remembering everything we'd lost. So I ran. It was cowardly and selfish, but I didn't know how else to cope. Julian looked shocked. Dad, I've never heard you admit that before. I'm not good at admitting when I'm wrong. Your mother was the emotional one. I was always the practical, distant one. After she died, I didn't know how to connect with you and Bria. So I stopped trying. Richard looked at Nia with something like respect. But you're not letting me get away with that, are you? No, Nia said firmly. Because Julian is an amazing man who built an incredible company and saved 800 jobs and still found time to help his sister and be a wonderful husband. He deserved better from you. He still deserves better. I agree. Richard turned to Julian. I'm sorry, son. I should have been there. I should have supported you instead of criticizing you. I let my grief turn me into a bitter old man who pushed away the people who mattered most. Julian's eyes were wet. I thought you were disappointed in me. That you thought I was too soft to run the company. I never thought that. I was disappointed in myself. You succeeded despite my absence, not because of it. You're twice the man I am. Richard's voice cracked slightly. I'm proud of you, Julian. I should have said it years ago, but I'm saying it now. I'm proud of you. Father and son stared at each other across the table. Then Julian stood up and pulled his father into a hug. Both men were crying, years of pain and misunderstanding finally being released. Nia watched with tears streaming down her own face. This was what family could be. Not perfect but honest. Not without pain but willing to heal. After dinner, as they drove home, Julian reached for Nia's hand. Thank you. For what? For saying what I've been too scared to say for 5 years. For forcing my dad to finally be honest. For caring enough about my family to fight for it. That's what wives do, Nia said softly. At least that's what this wife does. 2 weeks later, Bria called with news. She'd been accepted into the advanced art program with a full scholarship. The family celebrated with dinner at the mansion, all of them together for the first time since Margaret Hayes had died. Richard looked around the table at his children and daughter-in-law and said, Your mother would be so happy to see us all together like this. She always wanted us to be a real family. We are a real family, Bria said. Finally. And looking around at these people who'd all found their way back to each other, Nia knew it was true. Family wasn't perfect. It was messy and complicated and sometimes painful. But it was also love and support and second chances. It was choosing each other, every single day, even when it was hard. Especially when it was hard. 6 months later, Nia stood in an art gallery, looking at 30 of her paintings hanging on white walls. The exhibition was titled Finding Home, and it chronicled her journey from loneliness to belonging through color and canvas. The opening night was packed. Julian stood beside her, his hand on her back, beaming with pride. Bria had flown in from Boston with several of her art school friends. Mrs. Rodriguez was there, wearing her best dress and bragging to anyone who would listen that she'd known Nia was talented from the beginning. Even Richard had come, studying each painting with genuine interest. This one is my favorite, Richard said, pointing to a painting of a door opening to reveal light. It's about new beginnings, isn't it? It is, Nia agreed. I painted it the day Julian opened his mother's studio for me. I felt like I was stepping through a door into a completely different life. Margaret would have loved your work. She would have loved you. Richard smiled, a rare genuine smile. I'm glad my son found you, Nia. You've brought this family back together. A art critic from the local newspaper approached with a notepad. Mrs. Hayes, can I ask you a few questions about your work? As Nia answered questions about her artistic process and inspiration, she saw Julian watching her with such love and pride that it made her chest ache in the best way. How had she gotten so lucky? How had a marriage that started as a business transaction become the greatest love story of her life? After the critic moved on, an older woman approached. She looked at Nia with tears in her eyes. I'm sorry to bother you, the woman said, but I wanted to thank you. This painting right here. She pointed to one titled Worth. It's of a woman looking at her reflection and finally seeing her value. My daughter struggles with self-worth. She spent her whole life being told she isn't enough. I'm going to bring her to this exhibition because I think seeing your work will help her understand that she matters. Nia hugged the woman, both of them crying. Tell your daughter that someone who used to feel the exact same way is rooting for her. Tell her it gets better. The woman left, and Nia turned to find Julian watching her with shining eyes. What? She asked. You're changing lives. Your art is literally changing how people see themselves. Do you understand how incredible that is? Nia looked around the gallery at people studying her paintings, having conversations, seeing themselves reflected in her work. I think I'm starting to. Later that evening, after the crowd had thinned, Julian pulled Nia aside. Come with me. I have something to show you. He led her to the back of the gallery where one painting was covered with a sheet. I asked them to keep this one hidden until everyone else left. Why? Because this one is just for you. He pulled off the sheet. Beneath was a painting Nia had never seen before. It showed the church where they'd gotten married, but instead of a sad bride with a heavy veil, it showed a woman in white with her face exposed, smiling as a man lifted her veil. The colors were bright and hopeful, full of light and possibility. I don't understand, Nia said. I didn't paint this. I did, Julian admitted. Well, I tried to. I asked Bria for help and she walked me through it. It's not very good. It's beautiful, Nia whispered. It's how I wish our wedding day had gone. No fear, no lies, no heavy veil hiding your face. Just two people choosing each other with hope instead of obligation. He took both of her hands. Nia, I know we're already married, but I want to do it again. For real this time. Not because of business or mergers or saving companies. Just because I love you and want to stand in front of everyone who matters and tell them you're mine and I'm yours. Nia's heart swelled. You want to renew our vows? I want to marry you the right way. The way you deserve. With people who love you watching, with vows we write ourselves, with joy instead of dread. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. Nia Carter Hayes, will you marry me again? Inside the box was a beautiful ring, nothing like the simple band he'd given her at their first wedding. This ring had a sapphire surrounded by small diamonds, unique and perfect. Yes, Nia said through tears. Yes, absolutely yes. Julian slipped the ring onto her finger and kissed her deeply. When they pulled apart, Bria was standing nearby, filming on her phone and crying happy tears. I got the whole thing, she said. This is going to be the best wedding video ever. They planned the vow renewal for 2 months later. This time, Nia got to choose everything. Her dress, the flowers, the location, the guest list. She chose the garden at the mansion, the same place she'd walked with Julian on their early dates. She chose a simple white dress without a veil. She invited everyone who had helped her find herself. Mrs. Rodriguez, the team from work, Bria's art school friends, even the woman from the gallery whose daughter had connected with her art. Gerald Morrison was not invited. On the day of the ceremony, Nia stood in her room getting ready. Bria was helping her with her hair, chattering excitedly about the program at Boston and her new boyfriend who understood her passion for art. Are you nervous? Bria asked. No, Nia said and meant it. The first time I got married, I was terrified. Today I'm just happy. Mrs. Rodriguez came in wearing a beautiful purple dress. You look perfect, dear. Like a real bride this time. I was a real bride last time too. I just didn't know it yet. When the music started, Nia walked down the garden path alone. Not because she didn't have anyone to give her away, but because she was giving herself. She'd been given away once already, like property, like something unwanted. This time she was choosing. She was walking toward Julian of her own free will, because she loved him and wanted to spend her life with him. Julian waited at the end of the path, wearing a navy blue suit that matched his eyes. When he saw her, his face lit up with pure joy. No hesitation, no uncertainty. Just love. Hi, she said when she reached him. Hi, he said back, his voice thick with emotion. You're beautiful. So are you. The minister smiled. Julian and Nia have chosen to write their own vows. Julian? Julian took both of Nia's hands. When I married you the first time, I thought I was making a sacrifice. I thought I was giving up my chance at real love to save my company. I was so wrong. Nia, you are not a sacrifice. You're a gift. You took a man who'd locked away his heart and taught him how to feel again. You took a house that felt empty and made it a home. You took a family that was falling apart and pulled us back together. You saw value in yourself when the rest of the world couldn't, and you helped me see my own value too. I promise to spend every day of the rest of my life proving that you made the right choice. I promise to see you, support you, and love you exactly as you are. You are not the bride no one wanted. You're the wife everyone should hope to have. Nia was crying. Julian, when we got married the first time, I thought I was worthless. I thought no one could ever really want me. Then you lifted my veil and looked at me like I was something precious. Like I mattered. You were kind when you had no reason to be. You were patient when I was scared. You believed in me when I couldn't believe in myself. You didn't just give me a home. You gave me back myself. I promised to be your partner in everything. To celebrate your victories and support you through challenges. To keep opening locked doors both literally and emotionally. And to love you with everything I have for as long as I live. You saved 800 jobs when you married me. But you saved me too. The minister wiped at his own eyes. By the power vested in me, and by the love so clearly shared between you, I pronounce you husband and wife. Again. Julian, you may kiss your bride. Julian cupped Nia's face gently and kissed her as everyone cheered. This kiss was different from their first. That one had been formal, uncertain. This one was pure joy and love and promise. At the reception, they danced and laughed and celebrated with the people who mattered. Richard gave a toast about second chances and the power of love to heal old wounds. Bria read a poem about finding family in unexpected places. Mrs. Rodriguez cried happy tears and told everyone that she'd known from the beginning these two were meant for each other. As the sun set over the garden, painting everything in shades of gold and pink, Julian and Nia stood together watching their friends and family celebrate. Happy? Julian asked, wrapping his arms around her from behind. So happy I don't have words for it, Nia said, leaning back against him. A year ago, I never could have imagined this. Any of this. Neither could I. I thought love was something other people got. People who weren't too busy working, people who had time for dating and relationships. I never thought I'd find someone who understood me completely. Someone who made me want to be better, do better. Nia turned in his arms to face him. You know what the craziest part is? If my uncle hadn't forced me into that marriage, if your company hadn't been failing, if everything hadn't gone wrong at exactly the right time, we never would have met. So maybe things didn't go wrong. Maybe they went exactly the way they were supposed to. Julian kissed her forehead. I don't believe in fate usually. But meeting you makes me think maybe some things are meant to be. Mrs. Hayes, someone called. Nia turned to see the art critic from her exhibition. I wanted to let you know, your show has been so successful that we're extending it another month. And I've had 3 other galleries call asking to host your work next. Really? Nia felt dizzy with the news. Really? Your voice as an artist is important. People need to see your work. The critic smiled. Congratulations on the vow renewal, by the way. Your story is as beautiful as your art. After the critic left, Nia looked up at Julian. 3 galleries want my work. Of course they do. You're brilliant. He spun her around, both of them laughing. I'm married to a successful artist and a community outreach director. I'm the luckiest man alive. I'm pretty lucky too, Nia said. Later that night, after all the guests had left and the garden had been cleaned up, Julian and Nia sat on the back porch watching the stars. I've been thinking, Julian said, about everything that's happened this year. The marriage, the company crisis, meeting you, falling in love. All of it. What about it? I used to think success meant saving the company, keeping 800 people employed, making my father proud. And those things matter. But they're not what success really is. He took her hand. Success is this. Having someone to share life with, building a family, creating a home filled with love and laughter. That's what actually matters. You sound like an artist, Nia teased. All philosophical and emotional. You're rubbing off on me. He pulled her close. Thank you, Nia. For saying yes to that first marriage even though you were terrified. For giving me a chance even though I didn't deserve one. For loving me back. Thank you for everything. Thank you for seeing me. Really seeing me. Not the person my uncle said I was, but who I actually am. They sat together in comfortable silence, 2 people who'd found each other in the strangest way possible and built something beautiful together. The bride no one wanted had become the wife everyone admired. The desperate businessman had become a husband who valued love over profit. Together, they'd created something neither of them thought possible. A real marriage. A real family. A real home. And as stars glittered overhead and the night wrapped around them like a gentle embrace, Nia thought about the girl she'd been a year ago. Scared, beaten down, convinced she had nothing to offer the world. She wished she could go back and tell that girl the truth. You are not unwanted. You are not worthless. You are not a burden. You are simply waiting. Waiting for the right person to see you. Waiting for the right moment to shine. Waiting for the chance to become who you were always meant to be. And when that chance comes, you will be ready. Because hope and love and kindness always lead the way. Always.